Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I am the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today is the last webinar in our member series of webinars that we do every single month, where we go through BNI Connect in little bite-sized portions of about a half hour per module and hit just about every area of BNI Connect. Today, we conclude that series. So we started out last Tuesday, as a matter of fact, with how to fill out your profile and some basics about BNI Connect. Then on Wednesday, we went through the online referral process. How do you enter your referrals and your one-to-ones and all of that into BNI Connect and why? Then on Thursday, we went through the kind of the social media side of BNI Connect, or the LinkedIn style part of it, where we connect with other members and we have conversations with other members, and we can do those testimonials in BNI Connect as well. So that's what we did last week. Yesterday, we went through the tools and reports. We kind of took a little bit of a deeper dive into BNI Connect, went to those scary places beyond the home page. And today what we're going to do is just step through the visitor process. This is actually a little bit of a shorter webinar, so we may not take up the whole half hour today, but it's really showing, how do we invite visitors and the importance of making sure that visitors register for the upcoming meetings. A couple of just very, very quick housekeeping things I like to remind everybody of. First of which is that if you are here with me today on, it's Wednesday, 3 p.m. on the East Coast here of the United States, January 18th. You're listening to a live webinar. So that means that you can ask questions. Feel free to ask any question that you'd like to. I'm always happy to respond to those questions as we're going through the material. Just type it in. I'll see it pop up on my screen, and I will be able to answer you as we are going along. If you happen to be listening to a recording, and we do record all of these webinars, they're available on YouTube /BNI Connect Global, as well as on the support site. You are always welcome to send your questions in to support@bniconnect.com, support@bniconnect.com. So today, let's talk about visitors, and visitors are the lifeblood to a BNI chapter. As you know, we do need a constant stream of visitors in order to keep our chapter healthy. That's for two reasons. First of all, visitors bring excitement to the room. A BNI meeting without visitors isn't really a networking event. It is, catching up on things, and, if you know everybody in the room already, though, we're not making new connections, and that's really what networking is making new connections. So if you can get visitors in the room every single week, what you'll see is that the excitement in the room actually increases quite a bit, because when there's a visitor there, people do a slightly better job with their 60 or their weekly presentation, because there's a new person in the room to hear it, and that kind of excitement spreads. Visitors also, they tend to use BNI members for their services. So from a visitor perspective, when they're sitting there and they're hearing about all these great things that all the people do, they tend to want to do business with those people. So it's a great way for people to get, so to speak, customers, or people that want to refer themselves to the people that are in the BNI chapter. So those are two reasons why it's really beneficial. Now, the third reason, of course, is that not all visitors, but some of the visitors will become members of the group. They'll like what they see there from a business perspective, and they'll want to put in an application and become a part of the referral process and the referral and relationship and business building that you guys are doing on a week-to-week basis. Now, not every visitor will apply. That's okay. However, some of them will, and we all know that we do lose members from our chapter from time to time as well. So in order to grow the chapter, we need to have visitors that come through as well. Now, Mac, before I go any further, Mac does have a question. How long does it take for the recorded webinars to post on the national site? Usually I have those done within a couple of days of the last part of the series. So today is the last part of the series. I should have them uploaded to the support site and everything by the end of the week. So I do have to convert them all and then create a help document for them. So it takes a little bit of time, but I should have that. I'm hoping to have that done by the end of the week. So does that help, Mac? You can always review the ones from last month that are up there now. So usually it's relatively the same content, but we do have unique questions each time. So let's talk about the visitor process in BNI Connect. And really there's 3 stages to the visitor process. And here we have what that looks like, the flow of visitors. This particular slide right here, by the way, this is part of a 53-page manual on visitors that I wrote for the BNI Connect system. If you'd like a copy of that manual, just let me know and I can get that off to you. If you're listening to this via recorded webinar, you can get that by emailing me support@bniconnect.com. For those of you that are on the webinar today, what you'll see is in the GoToWebinar software, on that little kind of fold out where you would type your questions, there is a section called handouts. And there is a handout in there. You're welcome to download it. It is visitors in bniconnect.docx. That is the document file that contains this graphic and a walkthrough of a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about in just a second. All right, so there's, as I said, there's 3 parts of this process. The first 2 things on here happen before the meeting. You can invite a visitor to the meeting, and then either the visitor registers themselves, they RSVP for the meeting, or you can register the visitor for the meeting. Then the second part of the process happens after the meeting, and that's a follow-up process. Now, I'm not going to go into that today. That is more of a leadership team function, but once they have marked that visitor as attended the meeting, they get sent an email saying, thank you so much for visiting. We hope you enjoyed it. We'd love to see you back at another meeting. So let's go over, though, that's these first 2 parts of it, inviting and registering visitors and why it's so important. So for that, let me get over to BNI Connect, because that's where this starts out. Now, the first step of that process is inviting a visitor. And easy way that you can invite visitors here in BNI Connect using the visitor invitation. Now, we do that by going to, whenever we need to enter something into BNI Connect, of course, we go to Operations, Chapter. So Operations menu is where we go do data entry stuff. And under there, we'll see Create Email. And the second option down says Email Visitor Invitation. And the purpose of this is to send out a well-written, branded invitation to a BNI chapter meeting. One thing to keep in mind with this process, BNI is not a spam organization, right? We don't believe in leads, we believe in referrals, right? We're not a cold call organization. This visitor invitation should be treated the same way. In other words, it's really supposed to be a follow-up to a verbal invitation. This function wasn't meant, like I do get asked here in support, well, can we just import a whole list of email addresses to automate this? I'm like, no, because that's not really what it's intended to do. It was intended to be a follow-up to a warm invitation to a meeting. So if you meet somebody, let's say at a networking event, and you're talking to them and realize they might be a good match for the chapter, you could say to them, well, do you mind if I send you an invitation? You can RSVP then to the meeting. That's really how this was designed to work. So if I click Email Visitor Invitation, this is just going to allow us to very quickly fill out a form. By the way, we do have a mobile app coming out. It's going to be coming out, probably, April, May timeframe. So really the second quarter of this year. The visitor invitation will be a part of that. So you'll be able to do this right from your mobile phones once that app is launched a little bit later this year. So that said, we just need to type in the name, the company name, the email address. So let's say that I met somebody at the networking event and his name was Joe Smith from Smith Co. Right? And I just type in the email address, joe@smithco.com. And I'm just going to make sure it's a fake address so that it doesn't actually go anywhere. Of course, I hit enter too many times and accidentally sent that. Let me go back and click on Email Visitor Invitation. So again, this goes to Joe Smith from Smith Co. and joe@smithco.com. Okay, so the next part of this is an optional part of it, but you can actually put in a personal message. The personal message will appear as kind of the header of this invitation. Again, it is an optional part, but I like to do this because it will allow you to put in a a personal message to let them know that this isn't spam. This was actually something sent by you that they should be expecting. So, for example, I could type something in. Yep, great meeting you at the chamber event. Please be sure to RSVP to the meeting. Right? So I can click send. Now this will take that information. It'll wrap it up in a nice little package and send it to that person. You will get a copy of this, by the way, so you will get a copy emailed to you automatically so that you can see what it says and you can also know that it actually went out. One thing you can do also, if you'd like to just test this out, just send an invitation to yourself. Now, we're not tracking these invitations, so we don't know how many invitations are being sent and where you sent them to. We're not gathering up email addresses or anything like that to market to people. This is just a very quick way for you to get an invitation out to a potential visitor. And I did get this already in my email, and here it is. You can see that I was carbon copied on that, so actually when Joe at SmithGo gets this, they know that it came from me and what email address it came from. And just a nice graphic in here, a very brief explanation of what BNI is all about, so you don't have to be tongue-tied about what to say. Chapter, the date that you meet, the time you meet, the venue. There's a learn more about BNI website. There's the social media connections for BNI so they can see the legitimacy of it. And also the most important thing here, which is RSVP now. Now, that button will bring them to a registration page for your chapter. And this brings us to the second part of this, which is pre-registering visitors. This is the most important thing that you can do, is to make sure that your visitors are registered for the meeting. Now, again, the visitor can do that themselves. They can click on RSVP now. That will take them to your chapter page in order to register for the visit. It's really easy to do. They choose the date that they're going to be visiting. They would type in, obviously their name, John Smith from SmithCo, their phone number, and their email address. They can choose what industry they're in. If they don't know what they're in, they can type it in themselves, and they can type in who invited them. They do have to put a CAPTCHA code in to make sure that they're not a robot trying to register hundreds of people to meetings, and they would click submit. Now, I'm not going to do that here because I don't want to actually register myself for my chapter. That would freak my chapter out. Now, if they don't register themselves, you can actually register a visitor yourself. You can do that either by going to your regional website and going to the chapter visit page, or here under the operations menu, you'll also see manage visitors, register a prospective visitor. So I'm going to switch over to Antarctica here for a minute. And I'm going to register a visitor for the BNI Burr chapter. And again, it's the exact same form that we have on the RSVP from the email. But again, I can just choose date that they're visiting. You notice I can only choose future dates. And this is going to be John Smith from SmithCo. Oops. And you can type in the address and all the other information here. And email is mandatory for this. And there's a reason why the email is mandatory. And that's because the reason that this process is so important is that it starts basically an email campaign with that visitor and with the chapter as well. So the first thing that happens is that an email immediately goes to that visitor, again, whether they registered themselves or whether you registered for them, they'll immediately get an email that says, hey, congratulations, you are officially confirmed to visit the BNI Burr chapter. And the reason that's so important is because, you know, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but once or twice I've invited a visitor and they didn't show up. And a lot of times that's because, you know, we're meeting people a lot of times at other networking events. And we tend to give them a very casual invitation. Hey, why don't you come to my BNI meeting? Great, no problem. I'll be there. Awesome. Well, yeah, it's at the Elks Club. It's, it's Thursday at 7 o'clock in the morning. Great, I'll see you there. Said, oh, 7 o'clock, not at night, 7 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, great, I'll be there. Then all of a sudden, Thursday morning rolls around and the alarm clock goes off at, oh God, 30 in the morning. And the person is thinking, oh my goodness, it's so early. You know what? This is just another networking event. Nobody's going to miss me if I don't show up to this thing. And they hit the snooze button, they go back to bed, and they don't show up to the meeting. And you know what? They don't think twice about it because they've never been to a BNI meeting. So they don't realize that we have a structured agenda. We have a very point-driven meeting, that they're going to get an opportunity to introduce themselves to every single person in the chapter by giving a presentation. They don't know this because they haven't been before. When they register for the meeting, however, it changes the perspective of whether or not they're going to show up, because they have now, especially if they've registered themselves, they have now confirmed to visit that meeting. So now when the alarm clock goes off at, oh God, 30 in the morning, you say, you know what? I'm confirmed. I don't want to disappoint Jeremy. I want to make sure I show up to this meeting. They're expecting me to be there. More visitors show up when they are registered for the meeting. It also notifies the chapter that somebody is going to be coming to that meeting. Now, coincidentally, I am actually a member of a chapter. We meet on Thursdays, and we have a Visitors Day tomorrow. We have a bunch of people registered for the meeting, and what's really awesome is that every time somebody's been registering to visit, this is an actual visitor notification that I received for my chapter saying, hey, a visitor is registered to visit your chapter tomorrow, which is our Visitors Day. And I can see here that Sandra is confirmed to visit. I get all of her information down here at the bottom, and even who invited them. So now I know I can be expecting this visitor. I can be prepared for this visitor. I can have a visitor name badge ready for them. I can be prepared to greet them at the meeting. If this happened to be somebody that was in my contact sphere, maybe I even want to call them up ahead of time, or maybe somebody I know and say, hey, I see you're registered for the meeting. I can't wait to see you at that meeting tomorrow. All these ways that you can make them feel more welcome before they even show up at the meeting, the better the chance that they're going to have a good experience at that BNI meeting. It means they're going to make better relationships with the people that are in the room, which means that, hey, you know what? Maybe they'll do business with somebody in the room. And even better, maybe they'll feel so good about being there that maybe they'll want to become a permanent part of your group. Right, and of course, along with that, one of the really helpful things is that we now have a list of who's attending the meetings. And again, as I said, I'm having a Visitors Day tomorrow at my chapter. So this is really, really helpful, because if I go to the chapter reports here, all the way at the bottom, there's a visitor registration report. This really helps us to prepare because we know the visitors that are going to be attending our meeting tomorrow. So we have about 38 visitors registered for our meeting. And the only thing my chapter did for this one was we used BNI Connect to send out those invitations, and we made sure that either the visitor registered, or if we just verbally invited somebody, we registered the visitors ourselves. So, and if you're on the webinar next month, I can tell you a little bit about the results of that. But you know what? I've been here. I've done this process before. As a matter of fact, we had a Visitors Day a couple of years ago when I was first was a president of my chapter, and this first came out. And again, I just wanted to prove that this worked. So we had our upcoming Visitors Day, and the day before the visitors, or a week before the Visitors Day, we realized that, hey, we have this Visitors Day coming up, and we only have 6 visitors registered. So I sent out an email to my chapter and I said, hey guys, we have 6 days left, and we only have 6 registered visitors. After I sent that email, I started getting all those notifications, and we ended up with 21 registered visitors. So I'm like, you know what? This is actually working. I'm going to keep sending this email out. Now, this isn't a BNI Connect thing. This is just something I did with my chapter. Went from 21 to 26 to 34 to 39, and then 13 hours before the Visitors Day, we had 45 registered visitors. Now, before this process was introduced to BNI and the registration of visitors, we would get anywhere between 10% and, if we were lucky, 50% of the visitors would show up to the meeting. That Visitors Day, 42 out of the 45 visitors came to the meeting. We've done this 2 or 3 times since then. It works every time, and we've had very similar results from lots of people around the country and around the world as well. But the key to the whole thing is just making sure that you register those visitors for the upcoming meeting. Between that, the notification and the reminder that they get 2 days before the meeting, it greatly increases the number of visitors that attend BNI chapter meetings when they're invited. All right, so as I said, this is actually a slightly shorter webinar than usual. We are getting close to the bottom of the hour. What I'd like to do is to open this up for any questions. Does anybody have any questions about this visitor process? I'd be happy to answer those questions now. While you're thinking of any questions, just want to say thank you guys so much. I recognize a lot of these names on the list. I know a couple, Steve and Boyd and a couple of other people. I've seen you every single day on these webinars. That's a lot of time that you've invested in this process. Thank you guys so much for being here with us. I greatly appreciate the efforts you're putting into this. So we do have a couple of questions here. Susan said, can we see this again? Absolutely. I will be, this is being recorded. I will put this recording up on the support site as soon as I can. It's probably not going to be until probably Friday, but I will get it up as soon as I can. You can get there. You see this question mark in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect? Click on that. Click that question mark right there. That will take you to the support site. And right here, there's a thing that says live and recorded webinars. Pretty soon, you'll see January 2016 there, but you can always check out the one from last month. It's essentially very similar to this one, and you can review it there. You can also find it on our YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, this is where we host all of our recorded webinars. You can even just do a search up there for visitor, and you'd be able to check out, really, I mean, we've been doing this every month for the past couple of years. So there's tons of things. There's even a very quick, if you wanted to share this education moment on just inviting, if you wanted to share this 3-minute video with your chapter, that would be a great way to introduce it. So Susan asked, are they the same every month? Yes, unless something changes in BNI Connect, the content is largely the same. I have some different stories that I tell on a month-to-month basis. And of course, the questions, like the questions I'm getting today, these are different every month. So there is a, slight differences, but, the function pretty much remains the same in BNI Connect. Again, unless we do updates or an upgrade. Allison says, can we invite anyone? My opinion, yes. I say invite anybody. Some people feel like you can't invite people to a meeting that maybe that position's already represented. I can tell you from my personal experience, I'm a computer guy. If you want to invite another computer guy to the chapter, awesome. The reason being that until I meet this person, they may do something. They may have a specialty that I don't do. They may, there may be ways that we can work together. Now, can he join the chapter? No, probably not, because I hold that position in my chapter. However, it doesn't mean I might not be able to do business with him in some other way, or maybe he does something so unique that even though we thought we were in the same categories, we're actually different categories. I can't tell you how many times that's happened, and if you don't give the people a chance, you'll never find out. And to be completely honest, I mean, I'm the member of my chapter. If some other computer guy comes in and takes any business away from me, that's my fault for not letting my chapter know what I did or building enough trust up that they trust me more than somebody that just shows up to one meeting. So does that answer your question, Allison? Awesome. Joanne says, are there any French webinars out there? Unfortunately, I am a monolingual American. I only speak English. There are other countries that have put together their own series of teaching and webinars and trainings. I don't know where they're located, unfortunately. At this time, I only have English-speaking webinars, but I know I'm working with Mexico to get some Spanish webinars up there, and hopefully I can work with Canada and some other places to get some French ones up there as well. But right now, they're only in English. I apologize for that. And yes, please feel free to share these webinars, these recordings. Absolutely. Chris says it was my first time. Great information. Chris, you are welcome back. By the way, if you check your regional event calendars or, again, on the support site, if you go to that live and recorded webinars, a good referral for me. Refer people to these webinars. I will have the February series up soon. Obviously, we're finished with these step 5, but you can also, we do have a leadership team series of webinars coming up where we talk about chapter web pages, leadership team tools and reports, chapter goals and online renewals. A good referral for me is that when you see the February series posted, invite some of your other chapter members to these if you thought it was a good use of your time. All right. Chris says, would you recommend going through this as a demo and a chapter meeting to help everyone understand the tools? Absolutely. I think that would be great. What I would say is work with your education coordinator to work on that. You put it in little short 3 to 5 minute bursts in order to not overwhelm people, or if the chapter wanted to do do it as a 10-minute presentation or even an after chapter training. If your chapter would like me to do a demo, I'm always willing to do that as well. During a chapter meeting, I can come in via webinar if you have the technology to support that. We would just need to make those arrangements for a good day and time to do that. So feel free to contact me separately on that. Susan asks about PowerPoints. You mean these PowerPoints that I had or other types of PowerPoints? What I would say is really there's a website called discoverbni.com. That's a better avenue to send them. Send them to discoverbni.com or just bni.com rather than PowerPoints because that information is more relevant and is constantly updated. Boyd says that's cool, and Boyd, I'd be happy to do the same thing for your region or your chapter or your area. So feel free to contact me separately. So Susan, if you're looking for other printed material, what I would say is talk with your director consultant or your executive director before going down that path. They're going to have some good advice on how to best engage that. All right. Do we have any other questions, comments, concerns, compliments? So Max said we had a group training today. I had a question I couldn't answer. How come I wasn't able to find Perkins Dental when I looked myself up outside of the regional site? So if you can't find yourself out on the regional site, usually the thing that it is if you go to your account settings, the very first option, if you go to this tab with the telephone, show me on BNI public websites. If you're not listed on your chapter roster or you can't be found on the website, then more than likely this is unchecked. If not, maybe it is a spelling error or something like that in your company name that's on your profile, which we can take care of. If it's not one of those couple of things, you can't figure it out, feel free to send it in as a support ticket, support@bniconnect.com. Let's see. Sarah said you just sent a question. Where did you send a question to? To my email or to this, or did I miss one of your questions? Sarah, did you have another question? So what is the best way to outreach to visitors? In my opinion, the best way is to personally outreach and invite people. And the best way to do that is to get out there and network. Go to networking events, talk to people at networking events, and personally invite them. Bulk inviting and Facebook and all this other stuff just doesn't work. You really need to do it personally, one-to-one, just like we do with face-to-face, word of mouth. So. Awesome. So on that note, thank you guys so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. And as always, happy connecting.